You said conservative men hitting women and conservatives are okay with it and babies dying, blah blah blah, all of that
Right.
shit necessarily. But now this is like the
You
exact
obviously
same thing.
don't
Wait,
understand
wait,
what-
wait, wait, wait.
So
Did
what's-
wait a
so-
minute, wait a
hold
minute,
on,
wait a
hold
minute,
on.
wait a minute. It's not really protecting the life of that child if the life that that child is going to live is going to be one full of like economic hardship and violence in the home and
Hey,
their mom not
that's a
bonding
leap
with
again.
them.
Stardust,
and
I love you, but it's a
it's
leap.
not a
It's
leap. There's a history. No, there's study. It's not a leap. Excuse me. Excuse me. That's bullshit. I'm not pulling this out of my ass.
There's a different kind of mindset. So when we look at, like, for example, having like doing an exercise. Now, and I'll let me finish this up and I'll explain. When you have when you're going exercising and you have a miscarriage because of exerting a lot of force, right? But you unintentionally have it. We don't punish accidents in the court of law. Like straight accidents that are just like unbeknownst to you and it just happens, that's a miscarriage. But actually intentionally being like, I don't want this pregnancy, I'm going to chug a gallon of alcohol. Here's the problem with this, though. Even though that technically could be a crime, possibly, abortion or murder or grossly, it depends on your state. The likelihood of trying to prosecute that kind of a crime is very difficult. Just because you would have to, again, it's kind of that whole intent thing. You have to prove that the mother intended to try to abort the child, and it's very difficult. So just because it could be doesn't mean it should be or even will be prosecuted. And chances are, if you're in a blue district, it's very unlikely it will be prosecuted. It's politically not probably the best thing to try to do, especially because it's such a sensitive topic. The other one was the spousal beatings. So there's actually, I posted it in chat, 38 states, I believe it is, currently have fetal homicide laws. 29 states have fetal homicide laws that apply to the earliest stages of pregnancy. And the reason why it's difficult for me to pull this quickly is because most of the time we're going to see these in murder cases where the pregnant mother was murdered and the person who murders the woman will get charged with 2 counts of murder. In fact, I believe capital murder can be one of those, depending on the state. But there was one I posted that I could quickly find, which was there was an accident that was caused, and due to negligence of the man, the woman ended up having a miscarriage, and he was charged with the miscarriage. So they do happen. It's just it's very difficult to find one that's strictly that specific case of someone beating the mother being beaten in a case of domestic violence and the having a miscarriage and having a crime. It's there's a lot of steps to get to that. So
I guess my question would just be I'm happy to definitely accept those points. My question would just be when it comes to what we were talking about, somebody intentionally causing their own miscarriage, would you be for prosecuting that, and how would the state be able to prove that that person was being intentional when it comes to that?
that's what I said, right? Is that there's the can they be prosecuted? Yeah. But should they be prosecuted? Probably not. And then the other thing is trying to prove it. How would the state prove it? That's the part that's why I'm saying it probably shouldn't be, because depending on the case of the circumstance, if the mother is probably the chances are it's not going to be chugging a gallon of alcohol. But if it's it's difficult to just, if it's just simply an act. I can't even imagine how you would. I can't even think of a hypothetical where it'd be even clear cut for a prosecutor to take in front of a jury, right?
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't. There's no hypothetical in my mind that it would make any sense to do that. Although it could be a crime because they're intentionally. The presupposition here is that the woman is intentionally doing that. We know that beforehand, but trying to prove for the prosecutor's standpoint to try to prove in front of a jury would be incredibly difficult. Mm-hmm. So can they be? Yes. Will they be, and will they actually serve time or anything like that? It's very unlikely, just because of how much you have to try to prove.
So with that being said, wouldn't it be better for us to have a safe way for people to terminate pregnancies rather than putting themselves at risk by, for example, chugging a gallon of alcohol and ending it that way?
Yeah, so one of the things I would say is that, and this is kind of tying into what I was also arguing way earlier, was I looked in today today I looked at all 13 trigger laws. These trigger laws, for anybody who's unaware, is basically once a Roe v. Wade gets overturned, once that actually finalizes and go through, there are these laws that are waiting for this event to happen, and when it does, they go into effect. And so one of the key things about all these trigger laws, the common theme is one, the woman doesn't get charged. It's usually the doctor. Second, the doctor only gets charged if they perform an abortion outside of the exceptions. And the exceptions are typically if the mother's life is at risk. That's the big one. There's also then a couple of other states, there's like 2 or 3 I found, I believe, that explicitly mentioned rape and incest. I think it was like 3 or 4 actually. So what I was going to say is that the other issue is that some of the way that they defined abortion, this is where I take issue with some of the states, even conservative states, yes. They define that aborting a pregnancy before a medical test or after a medical test is done to prove the pregnancy, the doctors, if there's no other exceptions met, right, and the doctor just performs the abortion after the medical test was done to determine whether or not the woman's pregnant, then they could be charged with a felony. And I would have a problem with that because I'd have to understand, what is this medical test, right? Like, what's this? Are we doing like a blood test? Are we doing a ultrasound? Are we doing a urine test? I don't think it's quite fair to the mother to have that issue. So there are bills that definitely need to be refined from these trigger laws.
Sure. I can see what you're saying, but again, it still doesn't address the fact that like with the outlawing of abortions, and with like you said, that it would be doctors getting charged, right? Which means that like most likely if somebody were trying to end a pregnancy, they wouldn't be going to a doctor then. They would be taking it into their own hands, finding some probably more dangerous way to terminate their pregnancy. So are we comfortable letting people take that into their own hands rather than seeking a medical professional, even if we're like morally opposed to abortion, right? You still run the risk of these people going and inflicting horrible like damage on their bodies because they don't want to have that pregnancy.
I would rather have it in a case where we don't have misinformation going around, where we do say, hey, look, there is an avenue, and I would hope that we could get these states to actually clarify maybe like the parts of medical things. There are cases like Mississippi where they do still draw it at 15 weeks. So if you get an abortion before 15 weeks in Mississippi, you would be in the clear. Now, again, we could talk about the line and everything else, and it can get off into a tangent, so I'm trying to be very specific here. That's what I would prefer, is that we let women know that there are options still out there, albeit they are more restrictive now than they would have been prior to Roe being overturned. But let them know that there are still options. And again, the problem too is that even with these states, there are carve-outs for doctors, and carve-outs to where they have avenues where if like the doctor determines it's medically necessary, however that ends up being in court, the woman can still get the pregnancy. And again, even with the medical tests, well, if a woman doesn't go and get a medical test and she takes a Plan B or something like that, or whatever, not Plan B, whatever the termination pill is, I think it's Plan. I thought it was Plan.
The morning after. Right.
The morning after pill is actually not an abortion pill. The Plan B is not Plan B is not an abortion pill. Plan B is is like just kind of concentrated like birth control basically. But again, I would still say like sure, like Mississippi, like 15-week plan, like sure, that sounds like a good like middle ground, especially if they're allowing for later when it comes to like specific medical instances. But I would say like if we overrule like Roe versus Wade and we make like abortions illegal in all these other places, you're still going to have like women who are going to take their pregnancy into their own hands and do what they can to terminate it by any means necessary.
And I would say by telling them that they have options, I wouldn't be okay with them doing that. But at the same time, why are they doing that, right? Like, what is it that they feel that they have to, or they feel there's not an option? Just because they may not feel that way, then we should probably be informing them, let them know there are other ways to go about it besides just doing that. I think again, trying to say something like is to say that abortions are zero sum banned, is not helping to that fact. I don't think that helps either.
Well, yeah, that's what I would agree with. Like, I think if we wanted to reduce abortions rather than a ban on abortions, I would prefer that we create like a we put things into effect that would like help people not get pregnant in the first place, and then when people do get pregnant, feel like that they have enough support around them to be able to carry that pregnancy to term and maybe even take care of that, right? But as it is, a lot of people, they realize they're pregnant, they realize that their partner isn't going to be involved in that pregnancy even if they try to go through with it, that they realize that they have no, like, not nearly the amount of support that they need to raise a child. So I think that it's I think that like these are things that really contribute to whether somebody chooses to do something like that.
And if I may, I really want to strip something away here. You are saying that there are laws in place, there are trigger laws, there are all of these protections. But I would like to quote something from a pro-choice group. They said it should not have taken national attention and pressure for these charges to be dismissed. This is in regards to 2 cases that are very, very recent, where women are being charged for miscarriage. So when you say that this isn't happening and that there are trigger laws, you're trying to pretend you care for the women and that you're actually going to do something about this, but these are actually happening and you're not aware of them, and it's taking national attention to actually get these women safe. Because I'm noticing even in the chat, people are saying, when is this happening in America? But this doesn't happen in America, but it is, and people are not paying attention. A woman can get shot in the stomach and be charged for manslaughter of her own child. She didn't even shoot the baby. There are
Can
2
you
women.
provide a case example of that? Okay.
Yeah,
Sounds
I'll
like it
send
was.
you some more links.
It's in
I
chat.
already did the Alabama one. I've shared the
but-
Alabama one like 4 times, and I notice it's being ignored. So I'm not going to let conservatives
hold on,
continue
wait.
to lie.
I
just
wouldn't. I don't want to make the
It's
assertion.
one-
I
wait.
look. I don't
One
want to make the
case.
assertion. I don't want to make the assertion that Stabby is. I think that like the Doghouse and GSU Gambit. Like I know them both very well. They're both people who care about women. We have just different solutions to this issue. So.
Well,
He
Yeah,
needs
and
to
I
understand.
I
He
want to
needs
say
to
I didn't.
understand these. He
But
needs
I
to
didn't
actually
say,
read
hold
these.
on, but you made the claim that I said that this isn't happening. I'm saying that it was very unlikely that these would be prosecuted. And as we've seen with the charges being dropped, it stands to reason that what I said was probably true.
But there's
Exactly.
no, because it takes federal input. It takes the whole nation getting into an uproar and pressuring them. Those trigger laws you're saying exist. Where were those? Why didn't those stop it? Why did it take outrage on the behalf of the citizenry, which now is illegal
Well,
to have?
The trigger laws
Why
only go into
did it
effect once Roe v. Wade gets actually overturned. They don't go into effect until so right now we have abortion laws that are on the books currently, but then we also have trigger laws that are basically sitting in the background waiting to see what happens when Roe v. Wade gets overturned. Matter of fact, there was one bill I looked at that was a trigger law that was implemented back in 2006, and it's just been sitting dormant until Roe v. Wade basically gets overturned. And some of those are actually a lot more progressive in regards to their language than the more recent ones. The more recent ones are a lot more harsh, I guess you could say. But neither here nor there. The one that you're talking about with these particular cases of miscarriages and the woman being charged, again, I didn't know if you posted in chat or not, but if you did, I'll take a look.
I'll post it again.
It was. Hold on, wait. I think we can go over this easily, right? Wasn't this the case where the woman was the aggressor, and then like the man shot her or something, and then they charged her with being the aggressor in the situation? So they charged her with the case for her baby, right? It was that, right? That's the one. You keep
This is the
referencing over and over.
Alabama. This is the
He returned
Alabama
to
law.
a fight.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I'm
27
just asking. I'm just asking Stab because she's tried to refer to it 30 times. Is that not the exact thing?
She
that
returned to
happened
the
in that
fight.
case?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Wait, so
Why
she
does that
returned
make a
to.
difference?
Wait. That makes every difference.
Yeah,
So wait,
exactly. It
No.
makes a big difference. That's why it's pointless
So
to talk
she-
about this case.
No, because let me explain something. This goes beyond just even abortion. So, like for example, we could look like self-defense
Exactly.
cases, right? We could look at
Car
self-defense
accident.
cases.
Wait, look at a car accident. A woman has a car accident and has an abortion.
Uh-huh.
If she's at fault in the car accident, she's now guilty of manslaughter and needs 30 years in prison.
This is
You have any
No,
idea how insanely
no,
hysterical you are?
no. Wait.
Yeah,
Stop.
you're hysterical.
Hold on. Okay.
That's
first
hysterical.
of all,
It is. It absolutely
First
is.
of all, the way that we work in our society when it comes to criminal laws, idea of mens rea, you have to have a criminal intent. So if you just have a car accident and you're not at fault, you weren't acting grossly negligent or anything of those
I
elements.
said you are at
and
fault.
She said
you
it
were
was
at
at fault.
Okay,
She said
okay,
at
No,
fault.
hold on. Even if
no. You
like,
could be grossly negligent as well. Listen to this.
Yes.
statement.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. There's a whole bunch of elements that go into deciding whether or not someone should be charged with manslaughter, first degree, second degree, third degree murder, all of those. All of those have certain elements. And so in order for a woman to be charged with murder or manslaughter because she had a miscarriage from an accident, even if she was at fault, there could still be a chance because it all depends on the facts of the case. If she I could give you an example. She runs a red light. Okay, she could be held possibly in that case because she ran the red light. That could be argued that it could be grossly negligent. However, if she's sitting at a stoplight and gets a little bit too close to the car in front of her, the car behind her hits her, and then she hits the person in front of her and then has a miscarriage, well, she's at fault in hitting the car in front of her, but she's certainly not at fault and grossly negligent because she had ended up hitting the person in front of her.
But she just stated
Can you
at fault.
explain? I know. Can you please explain to me? First of all, I explained at fault.
Jeremy,
Second
it's
of all,
not
no,
just
wait.
at
I
fault.
need to finish this. Second of all, I already said at fault, like grossly negligent, ran a stop sign. I don't care. Now,
Well,
I
no,
need to ask,
okay, sorry.
why on earth? No, I need to ask, why on earth, if she runs a stop sign and hits somebody and then she miscarries her baby, is she suddenly guilty of manslaughter when we already have laws for what she did? We also have laws for what this woman did, which she could have been charged with assault, but definitely not manslaughter. Like you're trying to claim these things don't exist.
No,
but we have
wait.
to upgrade.
Okay. But this is really easy. So let me ask you
No,
something. Hold on. Let me ask you something. If she ran that stop sign, hit somebody, and then killed the person in the other vehicle, what would she be charged with?
Manslaughter if she killed the other person.
Okay. So
Usually
why
it's
not
downgraded.
Well, okay, but why would that same thing not apply to the child that was in her womb? What's
Because
the
she can
difference
have a
between those?
miscarriage at any time. Women have miscarriages. My mom had a miscarriage at 5 months.
We're
I
not
was
asking,
there.
can somebody
calling-
have a miscarriage at any
Is
time?
still
We're
alive.
saying
She has a
we're
miscarriage.
saying
If she
if
has a
gross
miscarriage,
negligence.
it doesn't matter
We're
if it's still
asking
alive.
if
There's
gross
no sanctity in that.
negligence. Okay, so this is what I was talking about earlier in chat because you said stupid shit earlier that I know you don't agree with. You were talking about earlier how people can aggress on pregnant women and that they should be charged. And now you're saying that if somebody is grossly negligent and then they're
I didn't say that.
no earlier, yes you did. I can't remember exactly what you said. But you said some stupid shit about
I think you
conservative
should get
people are
charged
okay
twice.
with men. You said conservative men hitting women and conservatives are okay with it and babies dying, blah blah blah. All of that
Right.
stupid shit that you said earlier. But now this is like the
You
exact
obviously
same
did
thing.
not
Wait.
understand.
Wait a minute. Did somebody on this panel actually say conservative men hitting women? Was it actually conservative men hitting women?
Yes.
I may have deafened while that
I
happened.
didn't say that. No,
Okay.
I didn't say that. What I said is, if you're going to say that, then we're going to say that we've got to somehow upgrade to murder if there's domestic violence abuse going on, and never before have we seen harsher penalties for men causing miscarriages when they beat a woman. That's all I said.
And
I
you
did not
said-
say
and
that
you said
conservatives are beating their wives.
You said conservatives wouldn't be for that, and then you acted as if you would be.
I
and
wouldn't
now you're
either.
presented-
No, I wouldn't.
And
I
now
said I
you're
wouldn't.
presented with a similar case, and now
I want you to clip
back
it. I
off.
want you to go back and I want you to watch this clip because no, I wouldn't. Because I specifically said, actually, that I could have just
I
said,
think-
my husband elbowed me when I ran into his arm and there's no way to prove these things and that's a nightmare. We shouldn't do that to men. That's what I said. Maybe you need, I don't
think
know.
actually,
So-
yeah,
okay,
I think
so-
I remember
so-
that. I
okay,
remember
hold on,
Stabby.
hold on.
Wait a minute.
Wait,
Wait a minute.
hold on,
Wait a minute. I don't
No,
think.
wait.
Wait. I don't remember I don't remember Stabby saying that she thinks that men should be responsible for that. So I do think that there's. I
that's
do
not,
think that.
that's not what I said. She said.
Okay.
to be
What did
very
she?
clear.
What did you
I
say
said
that she said?
Said she presented it as if she would be okay with it, but she didn't say that she. So she presented it like conservative people are being these draconian people because they wouldn't prosecute in those cases as if she would. but she left it out that she also wouldn't prosecute in those cases. So when we bring up the similar case of the woman driving the car, that's why it's important to now
She
get her
specifically
opinion
said that
and
she
show
wouldn't.
that everything that she said earlier was just
Can I
virtue
explain,
signaling
Prime? Can I
nonsense.
explain?
She
Can I
specifically
explain?
said
Because he
that.
obviously misunderstood it 3 separate times.
No, I didn't.
Go ahead, no, go ahead, Stabby.
Conservative men must prosecute if this is, if there's intent or the possibility of intent for women. This is obviously sanctity of life, must prosecute. When it comes to men,
You don't
meh,
think? You don't think?
maybe
You don't think
Absolutely.
conservative men would
Amen.
prosecute? Hold on,
Oh,
hold on,
dude,
hold on,
I
hold
don't
on.
know
So-
where this
so Stabby,
conversation's
this is how
going
much-
anymore.
so-
I am so
hold on,
confused.
Stabby. So
Same.
Stabby,
So,
you
buckle.
think that
This guy is
conservative
like-
men that are pro-life would say if a man causes the death of a unborn child, that those people shouldn't be prosecuted? Like that's the bullshit you were saying earlier, and that's what I'm calling out.
Yeah, there's no additional laws for any of that. There is for murder, and
I'm
that's
not
it.
asking
There's
if
no
there
There
is
is
additional
no-
laws.
no,
What
no,
issue?
there are.
There
What
isn't.
issue?
There isn't.
There are.
They're not getting
Yes,
prosecuted
there
for it.
are.
I'm gonna
either.
abort
So they're not
myself,
getting
okay? I'm
We're
gonna just
looking
abort
at the
myself
NCAA
live on air
elements.
on the
You don't-
stream.
Okay.
I'm
okay.
listen. I'm
Okay.
looking at the.
I think
Whoa,
conservative being
everyone,
different.
hey, everyone, quiet. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna
I can
work this
answer my
out. All
question?
right. So yeah, we're gonna work this out. So you can GSU finish your question, and then Stab, we're gonna give Stab the place to respond. I want to move past this point because there's a lot more I want to talk about. I want to challenge Doghouse and Crystal here and anyone else on this idea about a woman not being charged for like miscarrying. I have evidence that they do. But first, I want to let you guys to finish it, quickly finish
I don't
this. So
think
go ahead.
anybody said that they don't get charged.
Okay.
Okay,
That's not a
but
good
yeah,
thing.
okay,
Do your thing.
yeah. So the question I asked you, because you said there aren't laws on the books, that's not the question I asked you. So I'm gonna ask you the question I asked you again. Earlier, you put out the thought that conservative people wouldn't be for this. The specific question I asked you is, do you think if you presented conservatives that are pro-life with a case where a man caused the death of an unborn child, would they vote to prosecute it? Because everything that you put out earlier was acting as if they wouldn't. What do you think?
I think that most often they let them go free. That's why domestic abusers are usually repeat offenders. Like over and over and over again. That's why most
Wait.
domestic violence abuse that,
Wait.
I was
Wait.
military police in the Army. This was my job.
You're not answering my question.
No, this was my job. Yes, I am.
You're talking about
Because
previous
I think
case
they're letting them
outcomes. That's
go.
not
Yes,
what
I
asked
think they don't. I think they don't prosecute. I think they're letting it go because this is about women and men for them. This isn't about the actual crime, and they do let them go because most domestic violence incidents that end in death when it's over have had police intervention before, and we continually do not press charges specifically with certain people and their beliefs about what a marriage is and what discipline can be, etc. So no, I don't think that they're going to try to help with that. I think that's a hypocrisy on their side, and I have no problem calling it
Well,
out. They just lied to us twice about the Supreme Court. So
disagree with you because those are the prosecutors and the DAs around the country. That is
Exactly.
not
no, it's the police.
conservative men.
No, the police not taking them in. I want to be clear. Police not taking them in.
There's a whole look.
the
Okay,
police,
so it's really
absolutely.
this is the one problem I have is when we start to try to listen, the law is incredibly complex for a very good reason. Because sitting here and trying to explain like domestic violence, one of those things, first of all, is again, domestic violence, you have a whole bunch of avenues. You could have the DA that prosecutes on behalf of the spouse who's being abused. Then you can also have the spouse who presses charges. You can also have restraining orders. There's a whole bunch of other things, and it all depends on the case of the circumstance, right? So if you take it to the extreme of what we were talking about, where the spouse I can't believe I have to explain this, but the difference between a spouse just accidentally bumping into their pregnant spouse versus a spouse saying, fuck you, and then beating the living shit out of the wife, those are two astronomically different things, and in the eyes of the law, they view those as two astronomically different things. I would say,
said that
like,
though.
it's okay.
She
So we're on the
said,
same
she
page.
said
Then.
that
Okay.
she thinks that conservative men just hate women and they wouldn't want to prosecute men that voluntarily kill babies, which is just stupid. Honestly.
They do.
And
They do. So
insulting.
come up with proof they
Insulting.
don't. I don't give a shit
Insulting.
about your feelings. I don't give a shit
No,
about
I'd
my
say,
feelings.
well, I can say the same thing that the entire left wing
You know
don't
what?
care about life. So there
Okay,
we go.
so
This
can
is
I
where
ask
I
you a
get-
question? Can I ask you a question? May I ask you a question? is it insulting that a bunch of conservatives are claiming to be the moral authority and they just now said that it was established law and they weren't going to touch this, and then they lied, and then they said that it was too early, it was too close to an election for a year and a half out to get Merrick Garland on the court, but then they turned around and did it in 7. So obviously they're not moral authority. They are insulting the very idea of morality. So is that okay to be upset about, or no?
Can you show me?
your-
Can you show me, first of all? Can you show me which justices, specifically on the Supreme Court, said that they would not touch Roe v. Wade? I'm curious. I don't know which
Yeah,
ones. They...
Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and what's her face, Amy Coney Barrett. She tried to weasel out that question. Well, all of them did, right? Because what they were really trying to talk about is their behavior on lower courts. So, like, Barrett specifically was talking about, like, oh, as the a federal judge, you know, like, I wouldn't touch these things, right? But, like, she meant to say, like, as a justice, I wouldn't, I would give myself space to look at Roe v. Wade. But, like, Kavanaugh and Gorsuch specifically said that it was settled law, and we just have to move on, right? Gorsuch was asked if Trump in the White House told you that he wanted you to decide Roe v. Wade, like, what would you do? And he said, I just get up and leave. I'd leave the room if he asked me to do that.
Can I ask a
That's
question?
what he's doing.
All of them in that process just weasel. That's why it's disgusting. And they never give their true opinions. Nobody should ever care about what they say at those hearings.
Exactly.
That's right.
Can I ask a
The
question?
idea of acting like there's some moral panic because of that is ridiculous.
So,
Like,
sorry, I didn't mean to. Whenever you guys
No,
are finished,
it's
I don't want to. I don't want to derail you guys. So finish what you're saying, and then I'll.
No,
ask.
no, I was done.
Oh,
So hold on. I wanted to challenge Doghouse and my friend Crystal. I mean, I got Crystal, but I like her. Hi, Crystal. Thanks for being here. So, in terms of women getting convicted for a miscarriage, yeah, it's been happening. We've been doing that, especially when it comes to drugs. Right? If you are a woman and you've done drugs and you've had a miscarriage, right? Whether that the miscarriage was caused by the drugs or not, you can be charged with that. I've got an
That can
audio.
include
Here.
certain- It can include certain prescription drugs as well. Just wanted to put that up there.
So
But
again,
the cases
I'll
are
say-
the cases are for illegal drugs though currently, right?
I think the one thing too is again, if I have to explain this for the umpteenth time, is the grossly negligent behavior. So you could argue, for example, if you have, I believe this is how they charge drug dealers in some regard, is that if they end up giving these drugs to certain people, specifically fentanyl, you can be charged. I think Mac Miller's, now I don't think it'd be homicide. I think it's a little bit different. I think it's like aiding or something like that. But like if you like, you can be charged for doing drug use and be charged with murder. In this case, I could see where drugs are considered grossly negligent. If you're
A
pregnant,
woman was charged
I
for
can as well,
first-degree
yeah.
manslaughter of her unborn son. First-degree
what-
manslaughter of her unborn son.
What were the
and
drugs?
convicted.
What were the
what are
drugs?
the drugs?
Meth, but the medical examiner. The medical examiner. The examiner did not determine the cause of death of the fetus, noting genetic anomaly, placenta abruption, or maternal methamphetamine use could have been contributing factors. They didn't even get a cause for the death, but she was convicted.
There was a jury trial. I'm just asking. So the jury trial,
I don't know if it was
compelling
a-
evidence?
I don't know if it was
Well,
a
it
jury
does
trial.
matter because they may have charged her so that they could get her into rehab.
What and what?
Well, no, wait.
I'm not signing on to this.
They
Yeah.
could have
okay.
gotten her. Yeah, that's bull. That's bull because they could have gotten her into rehab for a million different things.
No, wait. Before we go down that,
Manslaughter.
I think it's important to know
Nobody
if
hates
it was
women.
a jury trial because that means that a jury of her peers felt the evidence was compelling enough, even though they didn't have direct cause. And I don't know how complicated it is to prove that the meth killed the unborn child, right?
Which case?
But-
Where was this at? Like, do you have a link?
the link, it's on the link is in BC chat and Twitch chat, but like yeah, so you can check it out.
You know what?
but-
Sky Lounge.
And then it goes on to a list. It has it references a center that tracks these things, women being jailed for these reasons. And I believe it's at 1,600 women in the last few decades or something. But I have to look that up again. So I don't
Wait,
give you the
okay,
wrong number.
I'm reading the article in and of itself. It says later the medical examiner obtained by the BBC found traces of methamphetamine in her unborn son's liver and brain. The examiner
Yes,
did not determine. Hold on. I know because I'm about to read the second part that you're going to refer to. The examiner did not determine a cause of death for the fetus. No genetic anomaly, placenta abruption, or maternal methamphetamine use could have been a contributing factor. So maternal methamphetamine.
What I just read, yeah.
Yeah. So, but that maternal methamphetamine use could have been a contributing factor. That
Yes,
alone.
But it's not. None of it was determined for a cause of death. You're saying that it's because she was using illegal drugs, but they don't know if that's the reason why the fetus died in the first place. But in any case, right? Like you can. The point. It doesn't. I'm sorry. Why are you making this difference between a jury trial and other? It actually doesn't matter. The point is them getting convicted. No one said like, within a jury trial. No, it literally doesn't matter. How does that? How does it matter when the person is convicted nonetheless? Like what we were talking about is not whether juries would convict them, right?
No,
or judges would convict them. We're talking about
I can explain
her
to you
the death of her child.
Yes, that's what we're saying. Thank you, Crystal. You now arrived at a conclusion. That's what we were talking about before. That's what me and Stardust was saying. That if you take a woman, if you're taking an action, then that could mean that you are charged with the death of this child.
But he already addressed. Doghouse already kind of addressed this, I think, with well, I don't know.
Prime, I want to tell you why I kind of asked that question, because I brought that question up initially. And I think it's important to know if most people agree with these things. And that does color my view versus it just being a judge is making the decision. And I agree that's like when it comes to her life, it doesn't change anything. But I would think that most people that are definitely at least pro-life would say that if they found methamphetamine in the baby's brain and lungs and liver, like most people are going to be okay with that person going to jail. Would you not be like? So let's say a person you know is pregnant, and they want their baby, and a guy walks into the room and gives them something that terminates that pregnancy. Would you say that that person has done something wrong and something criminal and something that should be prosecuted? I don't care what level. But do you think any crime has been committed? Or would you say, hey, this is unborn, so it doesn't matter? And if people go around killing unborn babies, even if people want them, it's okay?
No. I think that's interesting question because we talked about this the other day on the small council with me, Katie, Natsurodai, and Doobie, who's there. Gotcha. And Katie was talking about intent of the mother, right? Like in deciding all of these things, right? Like, does the mother intend to keep the baby, right? If the baby's life is lost at some point in time, right? I think that intent does matter. So if the mother like wants to keep her child, and then this person is forcibly ending the life of her child, then yes, I think they should be charged with something. What exactly they should be charged with, I'm not sure. I can see a case for other things other than murder or like manslaughter or something like that.
So for anyone who really like just like cares so much about whether or not it was a jury trial, I did just look it up, and it does say that the jury deliberated for less than 3 hours, and it was a jury trial. So yeah.
Gotcha.
So really quickly, I do want to say that
Stabby?
if she's given drugs and she has a miscarriage right then, those drugs are not going to show up, and those are not going to be the abortificant. What's going to happen is she might have heart distress.
Wait, I don't want to argue over minutia around drugs.
It's not minutia. No, it's not minutia.
It is the biology.
He would not be charged.
The intent of this
again.
question.
I'm really sick of people not understanding the biology part. But here's the point.
It's not.
It doesn't like we're already going to charge him or her with giving somebody an unknown substance, like we charge people for roofies. Now, if you want to upgrade that as a charge, absolutely we can do that.
No,
but that's
I'm asking you, what do you want to do? I'm asking you if there is something.
Apply the ones we have. We already have those charges.
Okay, so you don't think there should be anything additional?
No, I also don't think that if you murder a woman, I don't think you should have to have like, oh, well, he also killed a baby to get people to be all like, oh, okay, this time we'll put him in prison. Like, I think the murder charge should stand on its own. I
Yeah, I
don't know
think people should
why.
be charged with double murder for sure.
I don't.
I think it
I think it's
depends.
nonsense.
I think it depends, but I think that I wanted to ask again, going back to this idea of like people because if like you're saying in some states there is an option for people to get abortions, but in the places where it's not, I am worried about the people taking it to their own hands, and as a result, like not only like ending their pregnancy, but ending their own lives, especially knowing that 60% of the people in the US who seek abortions are already parents. That is like a huge amount of that's like a huge proportion of people that would be putting themselves in danger, and a huge amount of children that would be potentially losing a parent in the house.
Yeah, I wanted to comment on this, and it's complicated because first I need to lay out my position on abortion. So socially, I think it should be ostracized. I'm pretty pro-life. Outside of the regular, like the mother's gonna die, incest, blah blah, all of those, right? All of those qualifiers aside, I'm generally against abortion. But I've recently um struggled with, do I think this is a power that the state should have? So I do want to lay that out there clearly. I'm not necessarily the guy that's saying that this should be imbued by state law. I don't know yet. But what I will say in your framing, I think a lot of people that are conservative aren't honest. And I think what most people would say privately that they probably wouldn't say publicly is that they think the reduction in the amount of abortions is okay. And it is true that there are some people that are going to seek to do this to themselves and botch things and cause harm and blah blah blah. Like they're okay with that type of harm in order to get a reduction in like the total amount
But
of abortion. Because I think you
are they taking into
would you
factor
agree
those
that
children though? Are
go
they
ahead.
are they taking into factor the pre-existing children of that person who are now going to be missing one parent?
Yes.
What do you mean by missing one parent? Hold on, wait, Gambit. Hold on, before you jump into that hog trap. What when you say
She's
missing
saying
one
that they're
parent?
killing their secondary kid, like a new kid, and they already have a kid. So if
Yes.
they
Oh,
hurt
okay.
themselves
60% of
during an
women in the
abortion,
US who seek abortions are already mothers, right? If that 60% now has no access to getting a safe abortion from a medical professional, and they take that into their own hands, or they go and get a back
so
alley
start
abortion,
so start us
then they're putting themselves at risk, and also that their pre-existing children are at risk of losing a parent.
Oh,
so
see, that's what I was
I
looking
think
for.
you would agree.
That's what we were gonna say, GSU. I thought she was gonna, because at first that's what I thought was that initially she was gonna say losing like a kid, but the way she had framed it sounded like, in other words, she's thinking that mothers are gonna be wholeheartedly convicted at a very, very large
No,
rate.
I'm not talking about conviction.
Exactly. That's
I'm
what
not
I'm
talking.
talking
I'm not
she's
talking
just
about
talking.
conviction.
No.
No.
he's talking about
Wait.
personal
I'm
conviction,
talking
not
about.
state conviction.
I'm not talking about conviction at all. I'm talking about if you go and get a back alley abortion that is unsafe, and that
Yes.
ends in the ending of your life, right? If that ends in the ending of your life, that is what I'm talking. I'm not talking about
Yes.
convictions.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, okay. I thought you were talking about personal conviction. To
No. I'm
complete
talking
that act.
about
But that's
the
what I would
risk.
bring up. No,
I understand what you're saying. I'm talking
I was
about the risk.
misunderstanding Doghouse.
Yeah.
Not you. I understood
Okay.
you. I was misunderstanding Doghouse.
Yeah.
But what I thought Doghouse said is what I would say to you. How many people are going to be personally convicted to go and complete these type of acts? I think you would agree that the large percentage of people that are seeking abortions legally right now would not seek illegal abortions. The vast majority of them. There probably would be some outliers. I'm not saying that it will be.
I think I would disagree. I think I would disagree. I think a lot of people. I'm pretty sure that you can look at like the statistics around abortions, and people who are. Who don't have the option to get a safe abortion will find a way to do it in that place.
You think if we looked at the number of pregnancies that exist,
it might
in
not be
places
as
where abortion is unsafe, most of them seek unsafe.
I don't know if it's
abortions?
most
Really?
of them. I don't know if it's most of them, but I know it's. I know that there's at least a large proportion of them, and if there is a large proportion of them that are going and seeking out their own abortions or seeking back alley abortions, like regardless, we've got to take into consideration that these are people who might die from that procedure, and they already
Sure.
sit, and 60% of them already have children who are now going to be without that parent.
Yeah, so I think that it's like I think everything that you're raising is a really good point. I think you're overestimating it just a bit, but I think that people that are okay with banning abortion take this into their mental calculus. And they understand that there's going to be some subset of people who continue to seek abortions illegally. And then some of those illegal abortions can be botched and those people can die and it can lead to disasters for that family, right? I think most people take that into their mental calculus. They just aren't willing to say it publicly. So they'll sit here and they'll lie to you and they'll say, oh, blah, blah, blah. They'll make up some kind of excuse. I don't like me when I was for the state having this power. I completely took that into account and I was completely okay with if there are outliers of that happening, then that's just going to happen, but it's necessary for the reduction in number of abortions. More people just aren't
I
honest about
concur.
it.
See, here's the
I
thing.
concur with you.
If I can just lay out like a couple of things. The reason why I'm not okay with that is not only because of that risk, right? That you're putting people through when they go and they seek out unsafe abortions and back alley abortions. There's also the fact that people who are turned away from abortions are more likely to stay with a violent partner who will abuse them and abuse their children in the years to come. People who are turned away from an abortion are more likely to face economic hardship for like the next, I think, like 4 to 5 years. As a result of that, people who are turned away from abortion are more likely to not maternally bond with that child. I mean, there's like a whole array of different reasons as to why it's problematic to be banning it, because it's just not one issue that arises from banning abortions. It is a whole plethora of issues. You've got a whole societal, like a community issue then, right?
Yeah, so I agree with you, but we can substantiate our positions in lots of ways. There are people that will say, well, if you didn't have abortion, maybe those people would leave those people early and all type, like people are you can create whatever narrative storyline that sounds good to substantiate your position.
Too many leaps.
I agree.
Too many
Yeah.
leaps.
I agree with what you're saying, but I think fundamentally it comes down to, do people think unborn life has a right to be protected? And I think all of these other issues are downstream and they're morally
But is it
calculated for.
protected? Is it even protected though, if these women who have these unborn children are going to be facing extreme economic hardship too? They're going to be in violent
You know about safe harbor
homes.
laws? Safe harbor laws all around the country.
I want to tax you personally, though. Like, drain your account, so you have to take care of these babies. When they have to
Here's
have...
what I'm
I
saying.
pay more taxes
what-
than most people.
what-
so
what
yeah, I
I'm
probably
saying
would.
is-
I've been a foster parent.
Okay,
so
what
there
I'm
you
saying
go.
is that what I'm saying is that there that it's not really protecting the life of that child if the life that child is going to live is going to be one full of like economic hardship and violence in the home, and
Okay,
their mom
but
not
that's a
bonding
leap
with
again.
them.
Stardust,
and
I love you, but it's a
it's
leap.
not a
It's
leap. There's a history.
No,
there's study.
There
It's
are
not a
many
leap. Excuse
homes,
me.
lots of
Excuse me.
parents
That's
around the
bullshit.
world who want
I'm not
to
pulling this
look
out of my
Okay,
ass.
okay,
I'm sorry.
whoa,
I'm
whoa,
sorry.
whoa,
Excuse me.
whoa.
I am
Everyone-
not.
everyone
I'm not.
quiet. Hey, everyone quiet. Let's start us finish your point, and then you can respond. I want to hear your response.
Okay,
Crystal, but
first
start
off,
us
to
first.
say that this is a leap is absolute fucking bullshit. Okay, I'm not pulling this out of nowhere. There's the turnaway study. You can take a look at it. You can go Google it, and it has all of these as results that they have found over 10 years studying 1,000 women who were turned away from abortions. So you can go look at that and then come and tell me that it's fucking bullshit. Don't fucking tell me that what I'm saying is a leap when I am citing actual data that they have found in different studies. That's absolute bullshit. I won't tolerate it. I will leave the panel if you try to tell me that. I have been very good faith with you guys, so please extend the same good faith with me. Thank you.
Crystal.
Oh, I'm not denying that there wouldn't be bonding problems with the mother later on. What I'm saying is the continued leap is that we know plenty of homes waiting for infants who would take And we also know that there are safe harbor laws so that a child who is not wanted or can't be provided for can be safely dropped off with no charges against them. And so it comes down to the difference in, again, not these individual stories, which there can be plenty on both sides. I know just as many people, I know many stories of women who.
I'm not giving anecdotes.
Okay.
I'm not giving anecdotes. I'm giving you specific stats. I can link these studies, right?
Someone
I'd link
did.
it for you.
Okay.
Let
Someone did.
Crystal finish her point. Go ahead, Crystal, please.
So I'm glad someone provided that link, which I'll go look at, and I'm not sure about what the numbers are on that or the qualities. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. I'm not, but I am saying that there are once again, the overall value for human life, it trumps it all.
Does
Yes,
it?
Stardust, I would say.
Does
no, go
it
ahead.
though?
Go ahead,
Because
Donna.
when you're taking children and you're putting them into situations where they're going to be facing increased household poverty, inability to cover basic living expenses, it's going to affect whether they're in a violent household or not. Or whether the likelihood of their mothers being raising them alone, because actually that goes up if a woman is denied an abortion. These are all like stats you can take a look at. The likelihood of child development being like worsened because of this denial of an abortion, because now the mother is dealing with all these additional stresses. These are all things that you can look up.
Can I ask you a question?
Wait,
And
let me
get, like,
finish.
and this
Let
is-
me finish. Okay. You can look at all of these things that come up, right, as additional factors in somebody's life when they're turned away from an abortion. I'm not disputing that. Like, there's a value in life. Sure, if in an ideal world, I would love to have the circumstances be that every woman felt like she was taken care of enough, that she had enough like a safety net, that she could carry that child, even if she didn't plan for it, she could carry it to term. But that's not the world that we live in, and the studies show what the studies show. The data shows what the data shows, and that shows worse outcome, worse development for the children, more likelihood to experience violence, right? So I am not willing to give up those. I'm just not willing to put so much more of people at risk when these women are saying that they are incapable of taking care of these children.
So Stardust, can I ask you a question in good faith? You've mentioned all these stats. What would your ideal policy prescription be?
I think that
sorry, real quick, real fast, just to add this qualifier. Take into account that Roe v. Wade is now being overturned. What would your ideal policy prescription look like?
I mean, if you're asking for me, like in an ideal world, like I think that abortion is something that should be available to people. Though I think in an ideal world as well, we need to be working as hard as we can to provide the circumstances that allow a person to feel like they can take care of that child, or at the very least, carry it to term so they can give it up for adoption. But we know, as it is right now, that people don't feel like they have the capability to do that, especially if they feel like they don't have a spousal support, they don't have family support, if they feel like they're it's too economically hard for them to do that. It's right now. I don't see that, but I would like it to be that at some point in the future that women are able to feel safe and carrying maybe an unexpected pregnancy to term. So that's why I think it needs to be available. And when it comes to late term, obviously I would say that there should be a dotted line. Obviously, when it comes to late term abortions, usually those should only be for medical reasons. I just think that it just needs to be an option.
Can I ask you, I'm curious to see, because I know I asked you this earlier, but do you think that, and when I say this, I'm using this word because I think it just fits more appropriately, so don't get hung up on the word, but do you think that the fear-mongering of of like things like saying that there's a flat out abortion ban, say like in places like Texas, are helping those women get to a better place, or do you think it only creates more hesitation and mental distress knowing that they're in the state that they're in, if that's not really necessarily what's going on? Again, we can get into the weeds if you want to, but I'm trying to look at more of the mental state of the person who is hearing these things. Like, you're in a state where there's no abortion anymore, and even though that may not necessarily be the case, depending on where it's at. And then, do you see what I'm saying? Like, I feel like us kind of doing this fear mongering.
I'm
It's
not
just the word
trying to.
I-
So look, I'm not trying to fear monger. I'm quite literally just like looking at like what it shows from people who have been turned away, right? That's all I'm trying to do. And I think that it would be very naive of us to look at like the long lasting effects of like of making abortion illegal across the board, without looking at what like those possible implications are going to be. So yeah, you might be right. If somebody finds out like they're living in a state where it's hard, there's no like a possibility of them to get abortion, sure, they'll probably panic a little bit more, but for a good reason.
I guess I look at these things like radically different from most of my friends on the left. And it's because like even the list of things that you laid out, like single parent, abuse in the home, poverty stricken area, all of that is exactly my background. All of it, like to a T. All of these negative things that we can lay out that say are going to cause disastrous outcomes. And I'm thankful that in my community, people were more conservative on abortion than what's espoused in the left today, because I probably wouldn't be here. I was that second kid that was already abused. The average income in my city was $21,000 a year. Like, I'm from that ilk, and people like me wouldn't exist with the ideology that a lot of y'all hold. And this is not like charging anything directly to y'all, but I'm very happy that a lot of people are conservative on this issue, because there's tons of black people that wouldn't exist. The abortion case in the black community is already disastrous. And I feel like being pro-abortion, I know y'all see the virtuous side of it, and I'm not saying there's not a virtuous side of it, but I look at the opposite side of it, and I see it as a way for the world to discard any sort of accountability in economic situations. That's how I look
So
at it from my angle.
I can understand where
Stabby, do you have something? I wanna-
Can I respond to
After
what he was
Starfest.
saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so I can acknowledge that you come from that background, and that's definitely like, you know, very meaningful. And I'm not somebody who's saying that across the board people should just be having abortions whenever they want. I'm saying that abortion should be an option that is available to people. Should we encourage it? I don't know if we should encourage it. Should we maybe encourage communities to be more supportive of the mothers who potentially have unexpected pregnancies? Absolutely. Should we encourage, if somebody is able to carry an unexpected pregnancy to term and eventually take care of that child and love that child, should we encourage that? Yeah, of course we should. But my stance on this is that it still needs to be something. It's a medical procedure that needs to be available to women who have determined that they absolutely need that. And in all these other ways, we should be encouraging people to obviously to take care of their families, take care of their communities, but it still needs to be something that's an option.
I disagree with some of this, but first I want to go to Stabby, please.
I just want to say it's not pro-abortion, it's pro-choice. And it needs to be very specifically pro-choice for a very intense, immediate reason. There are states in this world today, there are governments, and there are husbands who have the right to force their wives to have an abortion when they don't want one. This is about a woman's choice to have a baby she's carrying or not have a baby she's carrying. That is pro-choice. There's a level of suspicion coming from this that I never hear conservatives ever mention well, what about the women who want to have their babies and somebody's forcing them to have an abortion? Because it's about control of the woman, and nobody seems to
Because
care about that.
they wouldn't support that.
Forcing,
You just straw
but they
man
never
and just say
mention it.
wild
But they
shit.
never. No, I'm
Oh,
not
yeah.
strawmanning because they never mention it ever. They never say a freaking word about it. But pro-choice does, and we still get called pro-abortion. You guys are the ones who don't know that. So we're not.
Somebody,
Like calling it
I would
pro-abortion.
oppose a man like forcing somebody, but I can you provide this again? I'm sorry to invoke this again, but do you have like which states
Yeah,
and
a man in China, his wife died after 4 abortions, and everybody was like, "Oh, this is what abortion does to a woman," but the man forced her to have them.
You said a man in China?
It's
What
happening all over the
about the
world.
US?
Pro-choice, I don't
What about
care.
the U.S.?
Pro-choice,
Wait.
shut up. Can they just shut up for 5 seconds?
Yeah. Let her finish. You can respond to her afterwards. Please.
Imagine talking over a woman about Roe v. Wade. This is what you boys are here for, and you know it. Admit it.
You don't
Now,
get special privileges
a
in this
woman-
conversation.
No.
So just let me finish then, instead of throwing tantrums. That would
Yeah,
be
so
nice. And I get to call it whatever I want if you're going to be like that. So
Just don't cry.
a woman,
Don't
No,
fucking
come
cry.
on. Whoa. Knock it off.
Pro-choice.
Everyone. One person at a time. Stabby, please.
okay, pro-choice advocacy groups and anybody who's pro-choice is not just working on making sure that women have the right to abortion. We're not just helping women get to our states so they can have an abortion in states where there's ban. We are also donating to causes and trying to help come up with legal briefs to help women who want to have children who are being pressured, forced, or coerced to having an abortion, but they want to have their child. So we're also helping them. We're not seeing any help on your side. That's my point.
Right, I'm not a
If you
conservative,
can,
first of all.
but here's the thing, GSU, I could come in and say this as well. Like, if you can show me somewhere in the U.S. where there's like a law that men are forcing women to go and like
Everybody
get pregnant,
again?
yeah, like let
Coercion
me
is-
know. Like, okay, coercion. Like, let me know which state allows that, or is
You
on the
meant
books.
unpregnant.
Which
I
one?
was
what
just
you say?
clarifying. You meant unpregnant, not get pregnant?
Okay, if you can point to a law that like specifically says that men are allowed to have women carry the child or fetus to term, I would be more than happy to support you on
She
that.
was
I just
saying
don't.
forced
Yeah.
abortion. She was saying forced abortion.
Oh,
Or
forced
coercion,
abortion.
or
Okay, so-
coercion, or a boyfriend going, "You need to get rid of the kid. I'm not paying child support," things like that. So we're trying to help
but-
those women who've chosen to have their kid.
Yeah, like if there's a man who's being abusive and telling their spouse like you need to
Yeah.
get an abortion, like fuck you. Like
You have
I would.
this caricature of pro-life people. Like you
They're
really
terrible
think
people.
you just think there's this whatever
Yeah.
can be hurt for the women, that's what's supported. And it's so dumb.
It's in
And you
their
like
books,
smile
man.
with it. You like
It's true.
smile with it.
Because
Like
it's
I've never
true.
seen such a
I don't have
smug,
to
just
pretend it's not true.
dumbass. Like
Listen,
it's
you guys
ridiculous.
said you know the right wing said it is established law. We're not going to touch it, and then they touched it. The right wing said it's been a year and a half, and it's about to be an election. We cannot get justices, and then they stacked three in less time than that. It's
Yes,
hypocritical.
yes,
It's
I'm
liars,
well
and I'm
aware
sick
of
of
this.
pretending. I'm sick of pretending you guys aren't lying. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna like salvage feelings. Come on.
I'm not asking you to salvage feeling. I'm just pointing out how incredibly dumb you are. I'm not like you can feel the way you have the right to be as idiotic as you want to be, right? I'm just saying that this caricature that you constructed probably doesn't even exist with all of these
It's
positions.
true. Yeah, it does exist. They've all
Like in
just
the
lied. And they
recesses
said
of
that's a
Twitter.
lie.
Okay.
Look, guys, I'm trying to find a
here's my
middle
thing.
ground.
Okay.
I'm trying to wait a minute,
Okay.
guys. I'm trying to
Counting.
find I think that I've successfully found a middle ground, right? And in my beliefs, I think most people agree that like I'm not advocating for everybody to have abortions and then have abortion parties and celebrate their abortions, right? Generally, like the people I've known who've had them, I'm lucky that I've never had to have one, but the people that I know who have had them, it's been an incredibly painful experience for them. It's been something that's like it sat with them for a really long time. So I mean, obviously, like you want to create the circumstances where people don't feel the need to do that. But right now, people do feel the need to do that, and we need to have the option available, so people can do it safely and not put the rest of their families at risk when they do it. And I think that I think that we can find like a middle ground. I think we all care about families. I think like I don't like the fact that like conservatives have kind of like monopolized like the being the party family values, because I think that like I think Democrats are a party of family values as well. I think that we're family first. I think we're just family first in different ways. So and when it comes to things like again, like the health of and like basic medical services, I think these just need to be available, just like contraceptive needs to be available, because contraceptive treats a variety of different things.
Yeah, I would say that I wish that were true, Stardust. like like I have a lot of conservative friends and I have a lot of like more democratic friends. And when I just listen to the messages that are coming out, it's like, yo, it's dope to kill your babies. Yo, if you have fallouts with your family, fuck them. Like they're just like any other person, blah blah blah. Like
Well, I don't agree with
I
those
don't hear
people,
a
you
lot
know?
of
Not happening.
no,
That's not
I
happening.
don't agree with those people too. And I'm not saying
Yeah.
that I'm not even saying that that's all of the left, right? I think that's ridiculous. But it is a large message. And what attracts me to my conservative friends is that they understand the value of community and family. And I rarely get that these days in my, especially like ultra leftist friends. Like I
Yeah.
don't see that. I don't see this like, oh yeah, we care about families in a different way. It's like, no, we virtue signal about individuals and we don't care about
I
community at
agree with
all.
you on certain aspects of that, right? So like when we're talking about like online lefties, 100%, like I can definitely say that like a lot of them say some really whack shit, right? But when I talk about like just like typical run of the mill liberals or center left people, like generally center left people are like pretty, you know, pro family, right? And if they're not terminally online, they probably are pro policies that help families. But yeah, I think that we need to acknowledge when it comes to things like abortions, when it comes down to it, people can say whatever they want about abortion, but the person who's going through that, who's making that decision, it's an incredibly painful experience for them. It's something that they're going to be thinking about for a very long time. They're probably distraught over having to make that decision, right? So I just think we need to acknowledge that like the people who are directly affected by this are probably people who would have been pro-family if they had the ability to do that.
Well, I disagree with some of this, some of what Stars has been saying, and I'm going to tackle that. Before then, though, I wanted to just say to GSU that you were talking about, you know, how you wouldn't be here if people weren't, you know, more conservative. No, but the progressive take, right, is that the pro-choice take, and I think this is what Stabby might have been trying to get to previously, right, is that we want to give women as many options as there are, right? So, like,
And wait,
we want
just
women
to
to
be
have
clear though, Prime, my mother definitely never thought about having an abortion or anything. I'm saying
no.
that the community had that mentality, blah blah blah.
Okay,
So, yeah, but
sure.
yeah, keep.
Fair enough. Okay, but we want to give women as many choices as possible, and choices requires resources, and so we want to give them, yes, the choice for ending a pregnancy, but maybe the choice to not get pregnant in the first place, to engage in sexual activities like we all want to do, right? But within a manner that is responsible and won't lead to one pregnancy and then transmission of disease. We want to make sure that we can get as much contraceptives out there as we can, right? Make it easy to access for everyone, right? Even of lower ages, which you might disagree with.
Yes.
There we go. So
Wait, one in the weird cases there, but no, go ahead.
yeah, but okay, but then it's more than that. It's that what Stardust was trying to say previously, talking about how so many abortions are by women who are having their second child, right? They realize that I don't have the resources, again, the financial resources or the resources in time or what have you, right? To take care of this child, and because they care about their current family, right? Maybe they have like 2 kids. They're like, I need to direct all attention to them. If I add a third, right? That will break us financially, and the quality of life for everyone else will decrease markedly. So the responsible thing from their position is to terminate the life, right? If you want less abortions, well, let's give those women options. Let's give them support, so that when that child comes, they're like, well, the government's going to support me, right? Or a community is going to support me, and I know they got my back, and so it's going to be tough, but I think I can make it through, right? That's what us progressives want. That's what we've always wanted.
Hey, so
But like, it seems, hold on, no, just end it here. But it seems on the conservative side, like looking at conservative economics, and like when we want socialized medicine, right? When we want it free, so that everyone can access it. We want prenatal care free, so everyone can access it, right? Well, if you need it, that you have it, right? So it's never an issue. We want days that's parental care, parental leave, right? So that when women get pregnant, they don't have to worry about losing their jobs, right? We want child care provided, right? All those things would be making an environment where women can make a calculation and say, I can do this. It'll be tough, but I can make it happen, right? Which would lower abortions. But the other side has not been supportive of these concepts. And I'm not saying that that's you. I know you're not that. But
for sure.
yeah. Mhm. Okay.
Yeah, I would say that's why I'm not on the right. That's almost the only thing, right? Because like I'm like Andrew Yang, we need UBI, and that helps with a lot of these issues. Blah blah blah. So yeah, I definitely agree with you that there is fight for the left for more of a social safety net. Maybe some of the policies are disastrous, but a lot of them are very helpful, and I hope would be implemented for sure.
and I think
I don't see a lot of. No, go ahead.
And Debate Board in chat says none of these things have anything to do with abortion. See, that exactly what I'm talking about, right? A conservative who doesn't seem to realize this has everything to do with abortion.
I think Debate Board is trolling
all right,
us.
listen, with who's
not.
in chat,
He's not.
with
I
who's in
guarantee
this
you
voice
he's
call
not.
right now, I can tell you as someone who is a conservative, I am for, if the states, here's the way I view this, right? The most logical and reasonable conclusion is that the states are going to enforce something where like you can't have an abortion based on certain like criteria. I think it only reasons to stand that they enforce the government backup when that woman does end up inadvertently relying on the government. So I think it's only reasonable. And so one of the things I look at too is that there are a lot of benefits that are given to single mothers as it is now. We could probably strengthen that maybe, but like here in Texas, we have a lot of different ways that women can get assistance if they are single mothers. There's also things that benefit single mothers and specifically low-income people when it comes to the tax code. Now the problem is that a lot of people don't really have necessarily the education to or resources to find out about those things, so maybe giving people those resources would be perfectly fine. I have no problem as a conservative stating here publicly that I have no problem with governmental programs as long as they're there and as long as it's within like I have no problem. I don't even know where I'm going with that. I have no problem with these governmental programs. Typically, I would have to look at them more in detail, maybe to like get into the finite details if I wanted to. But generally speaking, I'm okay.
I only have
I
a
also
problem
would
when
go
they're.
ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'll let Crystal. She hasn't said anything
Yeah,
yet.
go
Please,
ahead.
Crystal, please.
I was just going to double that, in that I guess maybe it's awareness of having worked with lower income women and people in these situations, and with this system, that I know that there are a lot of resources available, and grants and education and childcare, all those things for nominal or free. Same thing with like WIC. I mean, there's huge safety net here in Hawaii, and I am absolutely for all of those and for funding all of those. And I'd say the vast majority, of conservative women, more women that I haven't really spoken with conservative men about that part, but do support those safety nets and providing those things to support the mother and the families that have young children. So I think it could be part of the myth about the uncaring conservatives. And that's why I was hesitant to even participate, because I don't want to go in having to defend all these different things. I see them as myths. They're not the people that I know.
So I'm not trying to actually defend something, but I will say that the Republican Party has been attacking exactly those social safety nets. Exactly what you're talking about. They've been trying to dismantle it. They've been demonizing those programs forever. And we as progressives talk about expanding that safety net to cover more people because plenty of people fall through those cracks, right? The
It may
Republican
be
Party
because it's maybe because they think it's a state's issue then, and maybe that's part of it. Because on a federal level, yeah, I would say that it's at the states level they're probably wanting it to be implemented.
We do have state level programs.
No, because
do.
we tried it in Colorado. We tried it in Colorado for our own Medicare for All bill, and the Republicans got out and completely ditched it and said that the poor got there on their own and that they were immoral. And they managed to pull a lot of votes out of freaking nowhere and use gerrymandering so that they could completely crash the public safety net. They were all Christian, they were all conservative, they were all Republicans. 100% of the people who got it crushed. So sorry, they're just not good people. Sorry.
I just don't find you. I don't find you believable. I find you disingenuous. So
Well, okay, so
It's not. These people are doing this. Maybe make them
Okay.
stop. If you don't like this, make them stop.
So,
Talk to your
the pro-
friends. Have people together. Say, this is not what Jesus thinks we should do. This is not what our values are. And actually talk to these people because they're actually doing this.
so the
So-
problem.
actually, the ones
have
I
with
know
this-
are supporting
Oh,
a
Jesus.
lot through churches and
So-
organizations. So it's not my reality.
But the issue that I have with all this too is though that like to sit here and say that like for example like you mentioned Medicare for all, those are vastly different than now I'm just saying this as a matter of principle. Medicare for all versus say specific grants granted towards single mothers are completely different, right? I mean even in
He's one
principle.
of the ones who did it. We caught one, Crystal. He's one.
Oh, congratulations! Got one that I okay.
Caught one right here,
Anyway,
right now.
One
Good for you.
what?
got
One-
One of the
what?
ones who doesn't want the social safety net expanded at all. They want it stopped. One of the ones
You're
I was
not
talking about
listening to what he's
happening
saying.
right
You're
here.
not,
Wait,
but you're not
No,
listening
y'all
to what
gotta
he's
let-
saying.
It's different. It's not
So-
different. It's part of the
No.
social safety net.
No.
So
Look,
one thing to do is I stopped engaging with this person because like they're just gonna do stuff like that. So
Can
you just
someone
have to
rewind the
listen.
clip? I need a clip. Somebody in chat, please
Go ahead.
clip the shit out of what I just said
Yep.
about how I like. Actually, I think it's reasonable that if states end up.
Leave it to the states.
Wait,
Can-
no,
can I
didn't-
just
I
say-
wait,
No.
Can I
He
just
didn't
say, look,
that.
look.
He
If we
didn't say
keep
that.
if we
Your
keep
listening
abortion
skills are
legal,
really lacking.
Yup,
if
this
we-
person isn't gonna listen. So if we want to have a productive conversation, we have to ignore them. Like it was fun to meme earlier, but they're just like
All right, I want to clarify my position for the third time here. I am for having single mother targeted programs when it comes to if states are going to enforce these particular abortion bans, then it only stands to reason that they should implement and strengthen their social programs for single mothers. But what I am saying to you, before you thought you got me on something, was that there is a fundamental difference in policy between targeted programs and a broad sweeping program, in which that's the other problem too, is that a lot of Republicans will probably, and understandably so, probably side with you more likely on the targeted programs because they believe in means testing, as opposed to something that's a broad sweeping thing. Look at like UBI. Probably if you got Republicans on like a UBI thing, they say, yeah, no, we don't approve of that. But if you look at like Republicans would say something that's like, hey, low income grants or low income government assistance, they probably approve of that because they believe in means testing. So these two policies are fundamentally different. So that's why I'm saying is that like with me as a conservative, I even recognize that, and I would say that I am for targeted programs towards single mothers. I have no problem with government assistance towards single mothers. Tax incentives.
Hold on, because you misrepresented something. Because I literally said not a broad sweeping program, Medicare for all, our own version of it in the state of Colorado, only for Colorado citizens, and you sailed over that. Either that, or you have a reading comprehension problem. Either way, you're a conservative, so it's either on purpose or it's because you're stupid.
No,
Not a broad
Literally.
sweeping program.
Doug, I understand that you're saying it's broad sweeping.
It's the
but just
state
point
of
to everybody there,
Colorado.
she doesn't understand that. So Doug, we just got to engage. I
It's not
understand
broad
what you were saying.
It's
But
not
listen,
broad sweeping if it's one state. It is
It's the
not.
entire
You
state.
cannot
everybody
prove
in
it.
that state. If it applies to everybody in that state, he's calling it broad sweeping. I don't know how you can't get this. But anyway, Douglas, I'm gonna appeal you later on UBI. I'm about to talk to you offline. But
can I just make a final point, like a closing point?
Sardis, I wanted to disagree with you on stuff.
Okay.
Do you have time for me to yell at you? I'm not gonna yell at you. But one, I don't like this idea. So when you were engaging with GSU Gambit, you brought up like women who were broken up. like have an abortion, and like they'll maybe even need therapy or something. It's
Well,
so
I didn't say
traumatic.
therapy,
Uh,
but yeah,
Yeah, I
I
know you
said
didn't say that. I know you didn't say that. But the point is that we're talking about this level of trauma. Uh, uh, this is a regular talking point when dealing with people who don't agree with abortion. That while women won't do it unless it's a last resort, right? Instead, what I want to do is make it a resort, not a resort, but like just another option, right? Like rather than trying to paint this picture of women who are just devastated and don't know what else to do to turn to. I realize that there are some women who actually aren't devastated. That's actually not a big deal for them.
sure, maybe there are
To
some.
end their pregnancy. Yeah,
There
they are.
maybe
There
maybe
actually
there
are.
are
So
some,
not
but
maybe. There absolutely
okay,
are.
okay,
No, I'm not
sure.
done. I haven't
Okay.
made.
Okay.
So there absolutely are women who don't who aren't devastated, right? And rather than painting this all as a point of trauma, it's just an option. This is an option on the table for women, right? And an option they should take, even if it's not the last resort, even if there are other things they can do. It's okay. It's their body. If they want to end the pregnancy, then that's fine. That's the choice that we should be laying out. Not saying that, well, laying out the case for a distraught person landing at the door and not knowing what else to do, right? And it has to come to this. But because that's not the lived reality of so many women.
So, to respond to you, I was just telling a personal anecdote then, like the woman that I know. They're very well or probably women who are not affected by that. I was just talking about a personal anecdote in the women that I know who have gone through that, who were very upset by it, and they didn't make that decision easily. And I don't think it's right for me to lie about that. So when I talk about it, I'm just gonna tell you like the people that I know, and how they experienced that, and the way that they came to that decision. Does that mean that I'm saying that like it's some necessarily like some moral bad? No, like you're making that decision because that is the best decision for you at that time. Do I want to create a world where maybe less people make that decision? Sure, I think that's a great idea, especially knowing that the science is showing that pregnancies are becoming more and more, or not pregnancies, but children are becoming more and more viable. The earlier they can get them out, or whatever. If you understand what I'm saying, I'm probably not saying it correctly, but
No, I understand.
but yeah, I think I don't think it's right for me to paint a picture of something that I don't know, I haven't experienced, right? All I know is the people that I've known, right, and what they've told me when they were going through that.
So I wasn't asking to lie. I was just saying that that we need to make space for a larger spectrum
Plan
of
A.
experiences. For Plan A, yes.
Plan A is
Plan A.
abortion.
Yeah,
You're
I mean, yeah,
advocating for Plan A. Jesus
actually,
Christ,
yeah, we should make room for Plan A. One other question then, Stardust. Do you agree with a ban on third trimester abortions?
I don't think that there should be a ban on any part of it. I think at the most, if there's going to be something, maybe a dotted line, but I would even be kind of hesitant with that. The reason being, majority of the time when people get these third trimester abortions, they're getting it out of medical necessity.
Would
What
you
about
be
cases
okay
where
Okay,
it's
with
well
not
then,
medical?
hold on. I'll just say this quickly. I agree with you. I didn't think you would go that far. I was having an argument with two other women who are pro-choice who didn't agree on this one. So high five, Stardust, right? And it's great.
Hold on, wait.
And we have the
Stardust,
go ahead.
Stardust, so let's take out the situations where it's medical necessity, because I think almost everybody agrees on that, even people that are pro-life. How do you
All
feel
the 13
about?
trigger states feel that.
Yeah. How do you feel about people that are just pro-choice and they're like, yo, if you're supposed to deliver the baby on Thursday and it's Tuesday and you're like, whoa, like it hits you that Tuesday that, yo, I'm gonna deal with a lot of financial trauma because of this, so I want to get rid of this baby. Would you be for
Vacation.
that or against it?
I don't even know if it's possible to get an abortion at that point. Is it? Like,
Would you be for
if
that?
it were
Would you
Tuesday,
be for it being
well,
possible?
if it's not even
Wait.
possible, then it's not even a choice. If it's
No,
2 days, they can induce
It is
labor.
possible.
It is possible. I'm asking, would you be for a system that allows for that? It's definitely possible.
I'm not really sure. I'd have to think about that. If I'm being completely honest with you, I'd have to think about that.
That's fair.
I can
No,
give you an
I
answer for
was
that.
trying to ask you.
Yeah,
Because
I can give you an answer for that. I've said it already that up to the point that the baby's crowning, then yes, you should be able to
You
get
just
an
pull out the
abortion.
vacuum.
And how are you guys
put
going
out-
to use those
No,
hypotheticals?
because no, just quickly, like what they're trying to do is scare. Well, not. Well, I'm not sure what GSU's
Fear mongering.
intentions
They're
are,
fear
but like,
mongering.
but
I know.
this is what typically. I'm not going to say what he's saying.
Testing
But like
limits. right?
typically, when people use this example, is that they're trying to fearmonger, saying that this is a thing that's going to be happening. But no, as Stardust had already stated, when people are doing this in the third trimester, it's because they have a reason, right?
It's
I can
usually they
comfortably
wanted
say
that child.
that, like,
Yeah.
you can
Third
have
trimester. So third trimester abortions are by far what I've seen like the most painful ones, because those were children that were wanted, and they have no other choice but to have that abortion.
Yeah, but hold on,
It is
wait.
Those would not be
it's
covered.
0.9.
Wait,
It's
hold on, wait.
0.9%.
Wait, but
It's
Prime, I
0.9%.
think you're being a little bit ridiculous, right? Having a rule and usage patterns are two completely separate things. When I ask you for your rule on whether or not you want to allow something, I don't care if it happens 1 in a million times. I'm asking you for your.
I'm okay with it.
rule.
No, I'll shortcut
Yeah.
it. I'm okay with
I
it.
don't like when people say people are. And I know you weren't aiming at me, but I don't even like when people say other people are fear mongering. People are testing your limit to see what's your actual position, right?
And
Because you can be pro-choice. You can be
My-
pro-choice, but you can say, "Hey, there's a point in which I stop being pro-choice."
Well,
and that's
and I wanna-
XYZ amount of weeks.
And there's
Can I-
not a
can I-
point
can
where I
I-
stop being pro-choice for the
Can-
record.
that's
Go ahead.
fine.
Yeah, I
That's
want to
not
hit
fine.
on this real quick, because I think that one of the things too is that, like, when I would ask this question, I think it's very important too, because what we have currently that is about to be implemented are those cases where, like, during the third trimester, for example, if it is medically necessity, we do have laws in place currently ready to go at the whenever Roe v. Wade gets overturned, that they have those carved out exceptions for medical necessity. So what I'm trying to do here is looking at your legal prescription, which you believe should be law, to see how that compares to what we have currently, because you may find that you may actually agree with the current laws at least somewhat more than you would think. And that's what I'm looking at is, like, for example, the carve out we have with the medical necessity. The one thing that these trigger laws do is they do say, hey, look, if it is a medical necessity, then the doctor has to try to protect both the mother and the baby and the fetus. So if we're looking at third term trimesters, what it would look like in practice currently with some of these trigger laws is you would have a doctor who performs the abortion, but instead of essentially, and excuse my graphic nature here, but instead of humanely or dissecting baby, however you want to call it, will end up trying to take the fetus out
This
and
is
try to
fear-mongering.
preserve its life. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, I wanna-
But
I wanna
no.
press Prime
No,
on
no.
this.
So, Doghouse, absolutely no. I don't agree with those laws, right? Because they are restricting it. Yes, they have some sort of narrow medical exception, and how many doctors have to sign off and all this bullshit, right? And what if you can't get that? What if you have your access to medical care, as so many people in this nation, right, is restricted because, hey, we don't have socialized medicine, we don't pay people for people's cares, right? So people who are who don't have means can't get all those authorizations, right? All those, once you put up a barrier, there will always be some people who cannot clear the barrier, who
sure.
need to be access that care. I know you. I believe you agree with me on this, right?
Now,
But
I have a
but
question.
for a lot of
I agree
pro-choice,
that there's a barrier.
no,
I'm not-
for a lot of pro-choice, anti-choice individuals, right? Then they're fine with, like,
Pro-life?
oh, this is just a reasonable, not anti-choice. They are, because they're not pro-life, absolutely not. Like, not from the
And they don't give a shit. No.
not from the actual policies that they've been pushing. But anyway, they're saying, well, these are just reasonable barriers, right? There's something we could all agree with, right? Hey, we're giving you a medical exception. What are the details of this medical exception? And beyond that, there might be something that is not covered here, right? That's going to deny a person
So
care when they really need it. No, let's have no restrictions. Let's have free
yeah,
access to this medical procedure like we do for any other medical procedure. Go ahead.
I want to make sure it was very clear too. I think my conversation was more directed towards Stardust because Stardust was the one. I get what you said, Prime. I think it was pretty clear when you said at crowning. I don't think there's really much that you can like say that would even like. I think I get your point pretty clear. But I think it was more geared towards Stardust because Stardust said that she had to think about it a little bit, and so that's why I was curious when she mentioned the medical necessity. That was more kind of geared towards her because these medical necessities for third trimesters are caked into some of these bills currently. So that's why I'm saying if you believe that third trimester, what I'm saying here is if you believe that you don't think third trimester abortions out of pure convenience should be, but except for the exception of medical necessity, we currently have some laws that are kind of like that. Not fully, right? It's not like, hey, flat out abortions and there's medical necessity, but there are some bills that are like that. And so it's kind of, I guess, in a way you could look at it as like a starting point, right? A starting
But
point
that's
to a
how it already
discussion.
was under Roe v. Wade. But that's how it was under Roe v. Wade. And you're saying that has to be repealed. If it was already like that, what's your point?
Can you point to when I've said that Roe v. Wade should or shouldn't be appealed?
No. We're talking about before and after Roe v. Wade.
He's
If you're
talking
going to be
about policy that
anti,
we need to
if
talk
you're going to
about
be
because
anti-choice,
it's going to be appealed.
I have a
Right.
question.
So
It's from my
Oh.
chat. My chat says tons of animals straight up eat their young for purely utilitarian reasons.
Oh God.
Should we? It's from my chat. Should we allow people maybe take it one step further? If somebody gives birth to a baby, maybe they should be allowed to eat it if it's like within like the first month or something.
I want to hear Prime's answer on this.
It's 5 minutes rule, okay? So like, just
can this show up in the next vegan debate? Can we see
Yeah.
this question show up in the next
Just
vegan debate?
bring
please?
me in for the
Like,
next vegan debate. Just randomly
I
at the
wanna-
end, I'll bring in like a wild card.
So Prime, I
love
want to
your
push
chat.
you on. I want to push you on one of your positions
Please.
because I want to understand why you're okay with it, and Stardust, if you're okay with it too, I want to understand why. So like, I was born premature, 2 months premature, right? So
It's yours.
there's a lot of evidence that these, like, we're talking in the realm of theoretical late term abortions, right? That's the setting for this. So if this person is pregnant and they're basically just waiting to have enough contractions to be able to push this baby out naturally or whatever, if that baby is viable without them at that point, then why would you be okay with a medical procedure that takes the life of that unborn child? Like, why don't you say this is not okay?
I think Stars is going to have a different answer than me, so I want to give her space.
I'm not quite sure if I'm understanding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Prime said he's okay with late term abortions for whatever reason, convenience, whatever, right? So I'm asking kind of the question of why? What utility are you finding in that to necessitate that this is a part of your rule? So for me, I would look at a late term abortion. I would say I'm not for late term abortions because I can see that a lot of these y'all will be uncomfortable with the term baby, but a lot of these babies can exist outside of the womb. So the act of killing it is probably somewhat close to the act of just taking that baby early. Why would you not be okay with taking the baby early rather than killing it? Is my question.
Yeah, so I think I already like elaborated that I'm not really sure how I feel about that, right? I think
for sure.
I think in third trimester, like the reason why I would want third trimester abortions available is that because like so many of them are wanted. They were wanted pregnancies, right? They were wanted children, but they're just not viable. Either the child is going to die immediately after giving birth, or there's like there's something wrong
Yeah,
with this.
I want to
As far
skip
as-
those use cases though.
Yeah,
And I want to understand why when you say I'm just trying to make sure you understand my question.
Yeah.
When you say you're not sure about it, that means that there's competing
I don't
positions
know.
you have.
I don't. Here's the thing. Like, I feel that I'm not. I personally would be like I probably would be pretty against like somebody like just aborting a child like for no reason with no like extreme circumstances, because I don't know. But the thing is, like, when it's third trimester, I can't know like the exact reasoning. Maybe there is some extreme reason that they're not doing it for a medical reason, and I just don't know about it. That's like the only thing. I want to keep it as something that is available to people because I can't know what that is.
But that's how I want to restrict the. I want to restrict the the example to solely this person is doing it only because they want to, and there's no other compelling reason.
So I would restrict it to rape, and if we should get to have an abortion due
that's
to
a
rape.
good point. Yeah.
Because, and I need to restrict it there because conservatives and anti-choice, not pro-life people. Wait.
No, rape victims are
they
routinely offered the morning after pill.
They turn around and they say that's too low of a statistic for us to count that. And then you come up with this wild hypothetical that's not even there. I ask you to source it and you're like, it's just a hypothetical to test you. Well, I have actual evidence to test you. Is there a reason you would want a rapist to get to rape a woman and have their kids? Because that's a little sus.
I don't want to talk about people that aren't here. I want to have a conversation amongst us.
I want to talk about actual data. I want to have actual data.
So she makes a good point. If I can elaborate a little bit. Okay, so we do know that people who are in bad home situations where there's like incest and there's rape, a lot of the time they might not know when they're pregnant, and then a lot of the time they might not know what to do until it's very late, right? And if it is like an incest or rape, that is one I could also make an exception for in a third trimester.
Yeah. So unequivocally, if it involves rape or incest, I'm okay with abortions. Is there anybody that doesn't have that opinion?
I wasn't sure if that was for the third trimester.
I don't want to argue an opinion that doesn't exist.
Okay. All right. So if it's not rape or incest, and it's literally just somebody who is just saying that they want to, I don't know, because I wouldn't be for it, but I still want the option to be available just in case there's some sort of factor I don't know. That's like the only thing. Like I feel like there's something there that I could not know about this person that's driving them.
Reasonable people wouldn't do it, right?
Yeah.
But I'm saying, what if this person is unreasonable? I agree with you that in the vast majority of cases, most people are going to be reasonable and they're going to have the birth. But I'm saying,
if they're unreasonable, like if they're like mentally ill or something, and they just decide to,
their boyfriend or husband like left them in like the last like week or so of the pregnancy, something like that.
I would I would encourage them to consider giving it for adoption instead, right? But
if you had power to vote on whether or not they could obtain that abortion, how would you vote?
I don't know. I honestly,
cool.
I really don't know. Yeah.
So Prime, why would you vote to say, hell yeah, kill that baby? Like, what's happening?
Yeah, that's how I'm gonna kill that baby.